After 7 years of a certain president's attempts to deny what's already out in the public domain, this friendly reminder to his would-be successor on the Republican side: if you say something anywhere within spitting distance of the media, it will be written down and recorded and taped and archived and filed and preserved, accessible to anyone who knows how to use the Google. Our third story in the countdown: Senator John McCain's latest memory loss. He spent yesterday touring the still devastated 9th Ward of New Orleans, an area about which he told reporters on Monday, quote, "We need to go back to have a conversation about what to do, rebuild it, tear it down, you know, whatever it is." But by yesterday, when the tear it down quote had gone nationwide, the senator resorted to the easiest backtrack available, quote, "I don't remember ever saying it." And as far as what he would do to help,
telling them never again will such a mismanagement of a national or natural or man-made disaster take place in America when I'm president.
The Democratic National Committee has said, don't believe the rhetoric. The fact is McCain has a history of denying the Gulf Coast aid when it needs it most, and a record of outrageous votes to show for it. Instead of helping the area rebuild after Hurricane Katrina, McCain actually voted to deny emergency funding to the area, voted against giving victims of Katrina access to Medicaid and unemployment benefits, and then it cites your voting record. What do you say to that?
The fact is that the governor will attest, and others, that I have been helpful. I've been down here. I've supported every effort that I could.
Supported every effort he could, other than the efforts that he could have actually voted for. And when asked what he would have done after the hurricane had he been in charge, he offered up this one.
In all candor, if I'd have been president of the United States, I'd have ordered the plane landed at the nearest Air Force base, and I'd have been over here. Okay?
Okay, except on the morning that Katrina made land mere hours after it hit, where was Senator McCain? Celebrating his own birthday with President Bush right next to Air Force One on the ground in Arizona. No indication that amidst the merrymaking, Mr. McCain said anything to the president about maybe turning the plane around. Joining me now, Paul Waldman, a senior fellow with Media Matters for America, co-author of Free Ride, John McCain and the Media. Thank you for your time tonight, sir.
My pleasure.
Read a list of what he didn't do. Senator McCain's only response was to say, well, I asked the governor about this. Does he not know himself what he has and has not done, and why, considering that he's been officially running for exactly 1 year today? Shouldn't he have a plan at this point rather than a conversation in mind about New Orleans?
Well, sometimes when you listen to him talk, you think that maybe he doesn't really know. And I think you see that in a lot of areas with McCain, that he has this image and he's trying to get across, and that frankly the press is really cooperating with him in trying to get across. But when you start to look at the facts, you find that it's really just paper thin. And that can be seen on a whole bunch of areas. You know, we hear repeated so often that he's the maverick, he's the straight talker, he's the guy who stands up to the special interests. Well, I haven't seen too many reporters ask him, okay, you keep telling us you're the guy who stands up to the special interests. What about the fact that your campaign manager is a corporate lobbyist, your chief fundraiser is a corporate lobbyist, your chief political advisor is a corporate lobbyist? You have, by some counts, as many as 66 different corporate lobbyists working for you. You know, we have a website at McCainsFreeRide.com where we have a nice big chart that shows all of those corporate lobbyists and who they lobby for. But that's not part of the story that we've been hearing about McCain for so long. And what happens all too often with the press is that when the story and the bumps up against the facts get pushed aside, and the story keeps getting retold again and again.
Well, to that point, on Monday he says tearing the lower nine is an option, tearing it down. 3 days later, well, he didn't remember saying that. So there are two, I mean, there's only two options here. Either he's lying, or as one of his defenders in the media, Britt Hume, characterized those remarks about when he confused the Sunni and the Shia, he was having, as Hume put it, a senior moment. Those are not two good options, are they?
No, and I'm still waiting for a reporter to raise that issue with which you raised. Okay, you say that had you been president when Katrina hit, you would have turned Air Force One around. Well, he was with George Bush on that day. They were taking pictures with the birthday cake that Bush brought him. Did he tell George Bush to turn the plane around? What did he do? But as near as I can tell, he only started criticizing President Bush's performance on Katrina when he began to run for president, and he realized that he was facing his connection with a president whose approval ratings are in the 20s. But again, it's not the kind of story that we're going to hear told about McCain, because one of the other pieces of what we in Free Ride call the myth of McCain is that he alone among politicians in Washington never does anything for political reasons. He never panders, he never flip-flops. He's the only one who operates only on principle. But if you look at the facts, he has pandered and flip-flopped many, many times. And what happens is that reporters, when faced with that, they either explain it away or deny that it happened at all. We've seen that, for instance, with the issue of immigration, where he flip-flopped 180 degrees, and you still see reporters saying that he stood up to his party and refused to pander.
To that point, though, there are some obvious ones that are not avoidable. The lower nine issue here this week, telling Tim Russert he never said he knew a lot less about the economy than other issues when he was quoted by the Wall Street Journal. Other examples where they're just too close to be avoided. Does the campaign, much like the Bush administration, just not understand that there are things like archives and videotapes and audio tapes and YouTube where people can go back and check whether or not somebody has said something?
Well, the campaign has said that they are going to rely on the media to get their message out. That's something that's worked very well for McCain for a long time. And they probably think that there isn't too much of a risk there because they're not going to be called on those things by reporters. The reporters who for so long have been McCain's advocates, and the ones who have been propagating that myth about him, they are not going to stand up and say, wait a second, the emperor has no clothes. So I think that they've probably decided that there isn't a lot of risk in him just denying these things, because you're not going to get those kind of really critical stories. And we saw that with this case. You know, the headline said that McCain stands up to Bush administration on Katrina. Once again, they're propagating that myth that he's the maverick, he's the guy who goes his own way, when in fact in 2007 he voted with the Bush administration 95% of the time, more than any other senator.
Well, I think he needs to tune this show in. Paul Waldman, author of Free Ride, co-author of Free Ride, John McCain in the Media. Great, thanks. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
If Rush Limbaugh